Right. Are back. Thank you everyone for your patience. I am hearing an echo, so if everybody else from our team could keep their phones on mute, that will help.
Everyone for your patience.
I am hearing an echo, so if everybody else from our team could. All right, so the time is now 12:52, and we will resume the public portion of this meeting. Mr. Saeed, can you please announce the next item?
Next up on the agenda is approving the minutes of both the Commission's open and executive sessions held on December 12th, 2024. The minutes have been shared with the members of the Commission prior to this meeting.
Thank you. If there are no further edits or comments from the commissioners, I will ask for a motion.
So moved.
Commissioner Del Cosa moves to approve the meeting minutes from December, was it 12th? December, yes, December 12th. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Nash. Thank you. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from December 12th, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is the Chair's report.
Great, thank you. Welcome everybody to 2025. I hope everyone's year is off to a good start. This spring, the Commission will turn 4 years old. Now, as we start our 5th year, we have the opportunity to use our prior experiences and successes to form long-term goals for the cannabis industry. And so I wanted to share some of the 5 target goals that the Commission has and our priorities for this year. Next slide, please. So starting off with the vision for 5 long-term targets that the board has for in the next 5 years by 2023. We hope to see an industry that has at least 10% reduction in the average price for consumers as compared to 2024. We hope to see an easy to navigate applications for licensure that are focused on collecting information most relevant for the duties and responsibilities of safely and responsibly operating a cannabis business. I believe that most of the current application most of what the current application requires are actually dictated by statute, so we can't remove those requirements. But where we can, we want to reduce barriers to entry, and having a shortened application to the extent possible would reduce the amount of time that a cannabis business takes in getting open and operational. We also hope to see at least a 15% increase in representation of operational businesses that are majority owned by people with prior marijuana conviction. And at least 30% of operational businesses will have been operational for at least 2 years. This will indicate that whether our businesses are actually able to survive and thrive and keep their doors open. And then lastly, we want to see a reliable social equity scorecard that our wonderful team and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion has been working on that incentivizes corporate social responsibility and amplifies equitable opportunities in the ancillary cannabis industry. Now, in order to realize this vision, the board has established the following priorities for year 2025. We want to update agency regulations for medical and adult use cannabis industries. A couple of months ago, I did note that we had initial first draft of the medicinal cannabis rule proposal. So we are in a good position to get this proposal issued this year. We'll also work to collaborate with other state agencies to establish a reference laboratory to assist the Commission in overseeing the activities of testing labs operating in the cannabis industry. Having this test reference laboratory would help bolster product safety and ensure accurate labeling of products. We also hope to work to conduct a thorough assessment of the industry costs. And this would include examining the regulatory costs of compliance for businesses and the pricing of adult use and medicinal cannabis products to identify the factors that are driving consumer prices in the state. And then we'll also look to enhance and maintain our agency's monitoring of businesses' social equity commitments. Now, for our committees, we have some specific priorities that are tailored to our various committees here at the agency. So we'll develop guidance for testing laboratories, detailing appropriate standards for measuring and documenting product potency, purity, and contamination. Develop recommendations to the board on the uses of monies in the underage deterrence and prevention account. Our work group has been diligently working with other agencies and the Office of the Governor to formulate recommendations. So I'm excited to see those move forward. And we will also look to start a second public information campaign on safe and responsible cannabis possession and use. And then lastly, develop recommendations for reducing patients' costs for medical cannabis and ensuring equitable access to care. So as we make progress on these priorities, the Commission will share updates at our public board meetings so that the Commission stays accountable and transparent and the public stays well informed. Next slide, please. This year, we also will have a committee reorganization. Our committees will have new membership that will go into effect March 22nd. Our membership will be as follows. The audit committee will be led by Vice Chair Delgado and myself. The Public Engagement and Education Committee will be led by Commissioner Barker and Vice Chair Delgado. Product Safety, Packaging, and Labeling Committee will be led by Commissioner Barker and Commissioner Nash. The Permitting and Licensing Committee will have Commissioner Del Cid Coso and myself. And we have our ad hoc bylaws committee that is nearing completion of its work that will continue to be led by Commissioner Nash and Vice Chair Delgado. I am also creating a new ad hoc committee, the Medical Patient Access Committee. This committee will be led by Commissioner Del Cid and myself, and it will work with staff and stakeholders to do a deep dive into the cost of accessing medicinal cannabis and make recommendations to the board for reducing patients' costs and ensuring access to ensuring equitable access to care. The committee will be required to develop those recommendations by December 1st. Lastly, I want to move on to some industry reminders. Our applications for cannabis consumption areas are open. Our social equity business retailers can now apply for cannabis consumption area endorsement. Diversely owned businesses and micro businesses, they can start applying on April 2nd, and all other retailers can start applying on July 2nd. Secondly, the Commission has been getting reports of changes being made to municipal approval processes after businesses have either already received municipal approval or are well into the municipal approval process. We encourage businesses and municipalities to work together throughout the application process. We acknowledge that disruptions to the local approval process when applicants are in midstream can have significant impacts on our prospective entrepreneurs. On more than one occasion, the Commission has had to remove a business from consideration at an upcoming board meeting right when the application is at the finish line because the applicant has lost municipal support. So we urge really our municipalities to establish clear expectations for businesses before they begin investing the time, energy, and money into the local approval process. We do also want to acknowledge that it is understandable that changes to a local process may be needed. The existing process may be causing confusion, or a new ordinance may require a new step in that local approval process. I hope that our local officials are able to make any changes prospective so as to avoid, to the extent possible, making applicants that are already in the process be subject to new requirements. Regular communication and collaboration between the municipalities and our cannabis businesses will greatly benefit both the local officials and the cannabis community. So for our cannabis business owners, please make sure that you are working with and collaborating with your municipal officials to get across the finish line. Lastly, there is a cryptocurrency scam targeting our cannabis businesses. Scammers are currently have been contacting employees and luring them into sending money to unauthorized financial accounts. These scammers often pretend to be a manager at the business or claim to have spoken to the business owner who wants, and they pretend that the manager or the business owner wants large sums of cash deposited into an account using cryptocurrency ATMs. So to our business owners and managers, please ensure your staff are informed and trained on how to properly log, secure, and deposit money into the proper business accounts. Some of our businesses have lost thousands of dollars to these scams, and we don't want to see any more lost. So we at this commission want to see our businesses and our cannabis workforce succeed. So please be vigilant and be sure to follow your company protocols for handling and depositing money appropriately. That is all I have for today's chair's report. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report.
Thank you. Director Riggs, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for highlighting some of those important priorities and also for highlighting some of the things for the businesses to be aware of that are happening. Obviously, that cryptocurrency scam is important for businesses to be aware of. Next slide, please. So with my ED's report, an update on dispensary openings, new businesses are opening all over the state. We have over 200 dispensaries that are now open in both medical and recreational and in all 21 counties. We list some dispensaries here in Atlantic City, South Toms River, Eatontown, Princeton, Elizabeth, and so forth. Next slide. I wanted to highlight this new dispensary map that our communications team put together. Thank you, Tony and Blake and your team. This new map is more intuitive. It's user-friendly than the previous version. You can use it on your cell phone. It'll allow you to search by location and filter the dispensary types, such as, you can filter them out for medical, you can filter them out for recreational, and you can find what you're looking for. It'll give everyone the opportunity to click on a dispensary so that they can navigate to that specific location so that they can call the dispensary or visit their website and see if that dispensary has what they're looking for. And you'll also be able to toggle through and look to see if delivery services are available by each dispensary. So this is really a long time coming, and I'm happy to see this dispensary map is now out and the public can use this to help them with their cannabis needs. I also want to highlight medical cannabis town halls. As the chairwoman had indicated, we are working on those medical rules. And it's important that we hear from the doctors, the caregivers, the patients. We'll have the dates and times and locations on our website as soon as they're available. There'll be town hall-like meetings to hear directly from individuals and stakeholders about experiences, suggestions they may have that can improve the program. So please keep an eye out for that information. There'll be more information shared on our social media pages and also on our website. And now for the licensing update. So this is as of February 4th of 2025, total licenses approved. We've received over a little less than 3,000 applications so far that were submitted through our portal. A little more than 2,000 of them have been approved. 95 applications are pending review by the Office of Licensing. 389 applications are pending resubmission following a cure. Please make sure that if you have an application in and you have a cure out there, to get the information necessary to move your application along. We have almost 400 that are submitting out there that need a cure, and we'd like to see that these applications be cured so that folks can get their license and move towards being operational. 177 applications are currently under review in the Office of Compliance and Investigations. Total recreational licenses approved as of February 4th of 2025. 1,500, a little over 1,500 conditionals, a little over 400 conditional to annual conversions, about 230 annual licenses, 80 expanded ATCs for a total of 340 operating licenses and AU and permits in medical. Today, up for consideration, you get to the licensing portion. We're going to have 18 conditional applications for the board to consider. 14 conditional to annual conversion applications, 12 annual applications. We have 1 expanded ATC certification, and we have 35 annual licenses that are up for renewal. And like always, we'll get into the patients. We're not going to forget about the patients. They're always at the top of our mind. Total patients, a little over 65,000 patients in the program currently. Caregivers, a little over 4,000, and about 1,500 doctors servicing the patients in the medical program. And I'm going to do a sales and pricing update before I kick it over to our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Director McWhite, to go through some of the demographic data. Next slide, please. This is a medical and recreational sales for the last 4 quarters slide. As you'll see, in total, we've hit over $1 billion in sales, which is a great milestone for the commission. We're very proud of it. And that's a 36% increase year over year from 2023. The medical sales, as you'll see, have kind of leveled out. They're kind of flat and leveled out, but we do see continued growth in recreational and adult use sales. This is the adult use sales by month for the previous 12 months. You can see that there's a seasonality dip in the summer months and around the holiday season in December and January. And those are normal, but this is all trending the same as we've seen before. And you do see slight increase and some leveling out for the seasonality changes in the summer months and around the holidays. This next slide is presenting the adult use bud and flower prices per gram over the last 12 months. In December, we finally got under $10 for the average price for adult use sales per gram. So that's a milestone. It's the first time we've been under $10 ever as a commission. And for the year, the average price has fallen about 12% over the calendar year of 2023. So prices are trending downward for the average price per gram. This next slide is medical bud and flower prices per gram. Similar concept. They've dropped about 10% and they're below $9 for the first time as well. In December, you see it's below $9. So it's not even, it's a little bit cheaper and less than the adult use sales that just fell below $10. We've fallen below $9 in medical for the average price of flower per gram. This is the mix of product categories. So you see a little pie chart there on the side, and that basically shows that more than half of the products that are sold in the market in New Jersey require some type of processing or some kind of value add to them. Vape carts, edibles, all those things have to go through a manufacturing process, and you see that they have more than half of the market. Flower continues to dominate. Alone, a little over 40% in sales. So this just shows the types of products and the percentage of sales in the market. This is a newer slide. It's pounds harvested by month. Obviously, this is wet weight before dried. you'll see that we were over 1.5 million pounds were harvested in 2024. Seasonality in the late summer and fall months, you see those changes with the seasonality. Total pounds were harvested in 2024. It increased about 35% over to just get over 1 million pounds harvested in calendar year of 2023. So we just had just over 1 million pounds harvested in 2023. We're up about 35% this year. And in 2024, we had 36 companies that had at least one harvest, which is double of the number that we had of 18 companies in 2023. I believe that is the final slide from my executive director's report. And with the chair's permission, I would like to turn the floor over to our esteemed director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Wesley McWhite, to go through some of the demographic data.
Thank you to the Honorable Acting Executive Director, Chris Riggs. And thank you to the Honorable Board for this opportunity to be with you all. Really excited, as I'm always am, to share not just demographic data, but also business information data as well. As you know, originally in statute, this office is a business administration office. And so we want to make sure that we're closely monitoring new applications, new awardees, and new businesses that are opening as well, who they are and where they're from and what their backgrounds are. So we have a number of slides to get to, but I will not be loquacious. I will be as quick as I can to get through them. But the conversation does not end here, as many chambers do, as many employment groups, as many business groups reach out. The community reaches out after these quarterly reports. Please continue to reach out as the full report is uploaded to our website in a couple of days. So as always, we'll start with awardee application data. I wanted to share with you some information here. So we are seeing an increase, to the credit of this board, to the credit of staff across the board, on the number of approved conversions, approved annuals, and approved conditionals. So I wanted to give you a quick breakdown. So amongst cultivators, there are an additional 30 awarded annuals between last quarter and this quarter, an additional, between quarter 3 and quarter 4, an additional 33 conversions awarded to cultivators, an additional 66 conditionals awarded to cultivators. For manufacturers, there have been an additional 25 annuals awarded, additional 21 conversions, and an additional 20 conditionals awarded to manufacturers. Even amongst wholesalers, we've seen an additional 7 conditionals be awarded to wholesalers, 3 conversions, and 2 new annuals. Among distributors, we've seen 10 additional conditionals approved and 2 new annuals approved between quarter 3 and quarter 4 of last year. Retailers, the biggest of the bunch, we've seen an additional 30 annuals of retailers approved, a conditional 77 conversions approved, additional 129 conditional retailers approved, an additional 6 new annual labs that have been approved. That's encouraging, and 1 new conditional lab that has been approved by this board. And we also seen an additional 6 new annuals under delivery, 4 new conversions under delivery, and 15 new conditionals under delivery. And so while retailers continue to lead the pack amongst awardees, we also notice that there is a significant gap between conversions and conditionals. And we understand what some of those reasons are: lack of finances. Many of you have conveyed to us that investors are pulling out of agreements. Many of you are avoiding predatory lending practices and not signing on to agreements that would ultimately pinch you as far as your ownership and decisions that you make. So continue to be vigilant against predatory lending practices, and just the lack of space. Many municipalities have reached their caps, and we need more municipalities to opt in. And so while we understand those really 3 big external factors, we're imploring you to continue to reach out to the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, because we understand that there are some nuances between folks that have been awarded conditionals to then applying for the conversion in their annual. This is a percentage breakdown of all of what I just said. There's been increases percentagely across the board among all of our awardees. So amongst our social equity and diversely owned businesses, we are very proud of our continued momentum, outreach, and the impact of our existing policies. So over 70% of all annuals are diversely owned. This is a monumental feat. There are very few states that have achieved this, if any, at this early stage of the game. And so we're really excited to continue this momentum. And we're seeing steady at 17% of all of our annuals have been awarded to social equity businesses. We continue to monitor key population data for awardees, measuring conditional approvals to conditional submissions and annual approvals to annual submissions. And so we still maintain very small gaps between submission and approvals, but we have noticed a larger medium-sized gap between annual submissions and annual approvals for minority-owned businesses. So encouraging you all again, if you've submitted a conditional, if you're wondering where you are in the process, if you looked at the portal and you saw where you are in the process and wondering if there are things that you've left off of the cure, if we're still waiting on information, please consider reaching out to the Office of Diversity and Inclusion so we can help bridge that gap if there is any. So amongst our awards by social equity status, we continue to see an increase across the board. As we said earlier, amongst our approved annuals, our approved conversion to annuals, and our approved conditionals. Spoiler alert, many of these businesses are opening too, and we'll discuss that later. But we're really encouraged by this. And again, 405 approved conditionals and only 96, and 10 approved annuals. We continue to encourage social equity businesses to reach out if they need any resources or need to be pointed in the right direction. So under our majority-owned awardees for prior marijuana convictions, we're looking at 305 approved conditionals, 75 approved conversions to annuals, and 10 annuals. So 20% of all conditionals, or 20% of all conditionals, 20% of all of our awardees have been awarded to individuals who are majority award owners who have prior marijuana convictions, and 13% of all of our conversions have been awarded to individuals who are majority owners with prior marijuana convictions. And we are really proud of those numbers. And we're going to work with this board to see a 15% increase amongst true social equity applicants and awardees. And so I'm really looking forward to doing that work with this board. Diversely owned businesses, we're seeing 1,117, over 1,100 approved conditionals, over 300 approved conversion to annuals, and 139 approved annuals for diversely owned businesses. Impact zone businesses also seeing an increase across the board amongst annuals, conversions, and conditionals. And economically disadvantaged areas also seeing an increase across the board between Q3 and Q4 amongst annuals, conversions to annuals, and approvals for conditionals. And as always, the Vice Chair's favorite slides, our annual license awardees distribution by county. We are looking at Atlantic City, again, in the lead with approved annual licensees, well, Burlington County, sorry, then Atlantic City, and then Camden County. So shout out to South Jersey. And our conditional to annual conversions distribution by county, our highest here being Atlantic again, second being Essex, and third being Hudson County for folks that have applied and received their annual through conversion. The quarterly benchmark data, always a fave of mine. We continue to surpass our micro business benchmark data by over 10%. 35% of our licenses have gone to small micro craft businesses. For our conditional license benchmark, we continue to surpass that by 55%. 90% of our licenses have gone to conditional licenses. So that lower barrier way to get that first look at CRC, a lot of people have gone through this way, and it has been beneficial to folks. And so I'm really excited to see that conditionals have worked up until this point. Diversely owned benchmark data. So we are up 7% percentage points for minority owned businesses, and we are up 3% for women and disabled veteran owned businesses, surpassing those benchmarks by 33 and 29% respectively. One of my favorite slides, an update on diversely owned business certification data. So we've had an additional 13 minority business enterprises. Additional one disabled veteran-owned business, an additional 8 minority and women business enterprises, an additional 4 women's business enterprises as per our certification data. We continue to stay well above the national averages for women and minority-owned businesses. The larger cannabis community is looking to update this survey, and so we will have updated numbers for you, but I am confident that New Jersey will continue to beat those national averages when it comes to majority ownership for cannabis businesses. We've seen an increase in 2% in women and disabled veteran-owned businesses. So we are surpassing that benchmark by 30% and surpassing, including expansions, surpassing that benchmark by 24% and 30% when you include expansions and alternative treatment centers. All right, so we have added minority owners, race and ethnicity for annual awardees. We have added an additional 19 approved majority Black owned businesses, increasing that majority ownership of all awardees to 18%, an additional 9 majority Asian owned businesses, maintaining that percentage at just under 14%, an additional 6 Hispanic or Latino owned businesses, and that is it for now for approved businesses. So operational businesses under the CREAM Act. So these are businesses that are currently operational between Q3. Well, for new this quarter, that'd be between Q3 and Q4. So we have an additional 5 manufacturers and additional 12 retailers who have become operational between Q3 and Q4. That's 8 new impact zone businesses, 3 new businesses majority owned by individuals with previous marijuana convictions, 5 new micro businesses, 4 new social equity businesses, and 12 diversely owned businesses have opened between Q3 and Q4 of 2024. And I'm sure more have opened and will be opening Q1. Our doors certification, we continue to monitor, the number of certifications that we get. We've seen an increase across the board on our doors certifications as far as women businesses, minority and women businesses, and 1 additional, I do believe, of minority business and a disabled veteran-owned business. And I believe this is, yes, my last slide. We have seen an additional increase we've seen an additional increase. So 1 more operational business that has identified as American Indian or Alaskan Native. We have seen an increase amongst new operational businesses that are majority Black or African American owned. That should be an increase of 19 new approved of majority owned Black businesses, but 5 new Black owned businesses opened between Q4 and Q3. And the same for Hispanic or Latino businesses. I believe that 6 new Hispanic or Latino businesses that are currently operational between Q3 and Q4. So that is it for me. It wasn't too long. It wasn't too bad. But we want to continue to encourage the cannabis community, potential prospective business owners to stay in constant communication with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion so that when we recommend policies to this board, to our Chris Riggs, to the Executive Director's Office, that they are policies that are really impacting you on the ground. And so we're going to continue to do this work and to support businesses, help people get those conversions in, help people with their cures. And we're going to continue to solicit your feedback to make sure that this industry, New Jersey cannabis industry, continues to look like, the makeup and the culture of New Jersey, and the diversity and the rich culture of New Jersey. And so congratulations to all of those new operational businesses. Congratulations to all the new awardees. You are real people. You are not just businesses and numbers. We see you, we recognize you, we honor you, and just thank you for all of the work that you all have been putting into this industry up until this point. And so at this time, I'll turn it back over to our acting director, Chris Riggs.
Thank you, Director McWhite. Great presentation, and we'll make sure that this data becomes available on the internet and on the website as soon as the meeting ends, and I'm going to turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Director Riggs, and thank you to Director McWhite and his team as well for all the work that the Office of Diversity and Inclusion is doing to reach out to people, make sure they understand what they need to provide to us, cure those deficiencies, and get across the finish line. If there are no questions from the board for Director Riggs, then we will move on to the next agenda item.
Madam Chair, it's not a question, but just a brief statement. That's okay.
Yes, Commissioner Dustin.
Yes, to Director Riggs, I did notice that there was about 1,000 patients that we lost since December 1st. December 12th, but the last board meeting, you reported that we had 66,374 enrolled patients. Now we're down to 65,000, so it's roughly almost close to 1,000 patients that we lost to our enrollment numbers. I just want to say that I look forward to working with staff now that Chairwoman Waino and I are going to be sitting on in the Medical Patient Access Ad Hoc Committee so that we can find ways to not just increase our patient enrollment numbers, but also find policy measures so that we can create a more robust medical program within the CRC.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Dusty-Coso. We share the same goal on the staff side of things. Yes, you're correct. The numbers have dropped about 1,000. We're hopeful that with the new medical rules and with some of these medical roundtables that we're going to hold on the staff side to help guide some of the policies that we're going to implement under the new medical rules, will help bolster that medical program, and look forward to working with you to, work on some creative ideas to also make this medical program more attractive and more beneficial to the patients.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Any other questions from the board for Director Riggs? Hearing none, we will move forward.
The next item on the agenda are the committee reports.
All right, so we have the Public Engagement and Education Committee that will provide a committee report. For this, I will turn it over to Commissioner Nash. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also want to thank Acting Director Riggs and Director McWhite for providing such thorough and important data. Great job. Thank you. The Public Education and Engagement Committee will once again host 3 virtual hearings to solicit recommendations from the public on how the social equity excise fees should be appropriated. The social equity excise fee is a tax on cannabis cultivators, or a fee, based on the sale of usable cannabis and unusable cannabis used for manufacturing, to fund programs and services, among other things, that benefit communities and the people that reside in them. The Commission set the per ounce fee beginning January 1st at $2.50. And some examples of how the monies can be appropriated are through grants and loans, economic development, reentry support, educational programs, after-school care, and there's much more. So we want to hear from you, the public, on ideas so that we can convey that to the legislature. By gathering public input from the New Jersey residents, the Commission reaffirms its dedication to keeping the legislature informed about the needs of communities across the state and to allocate C funds appropriately. The Commission has submitted 3 reports to the legislature since 2022, and to date, the funds have accumulated, and as of August 2024, the balance in the fund was over $6 million. The hearings will be held Thursday, February 20th at 6 p.m., Tuesday, February 25th, 11 a.m., and Wednesday, February 26th at 1 p.m. Participants are encouraged to register to speak or submit written comments at njcrc.info/CSEEF. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. I want to echo Commissioner Nash's excitement and to hear from members of the public. So make sure that you register, go online and register to speak so that your voice can be heard and incorporated into the report that the commission will later publish. Are there any questions from the board for Commissioner Nash? Hearing none, we will move forward.
The next item on the agenda is the Product Safety, Packaging, and Labeling Committee.
Mr. Said, I believe the product safety, packaging, and labeling committee will be providing presenting on the next agenda item. That is a public notice and publication.
My apologies.
That's all right, no problem. So we have the rule waiver of N.J.A.C. 17:30-19.3B. So I'll turn it over to our Product Safety, Packaging, and Labeling Committee for a readout of this rule waiver, the need for a regulatory waiver, and any accompanying materials and guidance that the committee will provide.
Sure. Thank you again. The Product Safety, Packaging, and Labeling Committee is excited to announce that the Commission has developed its own comprehensive testing guidance for testing laboratories. For clarity, the guidance will also include a restatement of relevant rules that apply to laboratories, an explanation of where such rules are waived, or where additional details were needed to clarify such rules. Since 2021, the Commission adopted Maryland's testing guidance until such time as it could establish its own standard requirements and procedures. In January 2022, the batch size was increased from 10 pounds to 100 pounds so that businesses could increase the supply of cannabis and cannabis products to consumers. The proposed guidance required a comprehensive understanding of scientific protocols, and the committee would like to thank Regulatory Officer Noah Mamber, our legal team, and the stakeholders who provided input to develop a sound and comprehensive technical guidance document. Next slide. As I mentioned, New Jersey's batch size is currently 100 pounds. It is the highest in the nation. The committee proposes waiving certain testing requirements to reduce the batch size from 100 pounds to a max of 33.07 pounds, and also require specific incremental sampling for usable and unusable cannabis that yields more specific results. Next slide. Certain requirements will be waived in connection with increments and lot sizes, and instead will provide more specific lot weights and again, incremental units for various product types as we're seeing in the market, such as inhalable, ingestible, and many others. Next slide. Here's a chart that requires for minimum weights for initial samples, which is also a waiver. And instead, this chart will include more specific guidance as shown here on various product types, including retention samples. Next slide. The Commission established a time frame to give labs and businesses time to prepare for these new protocols. For sampling changes, the grace period will be 30 days from today, and the initial and stability testing changes will take effect on 11:59 on Friday, May 23rd. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. Yes, thank you to Regulatory Officer Noah Mamber, Chief Counsel Dave Toison, and the rest of the committee and the engaged stakeholders to help us get our testing requirements in the right place so that our commission can continue to uphold its value of safety. If there are no questions from the board, I'll ask for a motion on this recommendation.
Madam Chair, I move to recommend the testing guidance and waivers.
Commissioner Nash moves to approve the rule waiver and the testing guidance. Is there a second? Last call for a second. I will second the motion. Is there any discussion on this motion to approve the rule waiver and testing guidance? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Waynu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the delegation of authority.
I will now turn the floor over to Acting Director Riggs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. So there's two delegations of authority that staff is requesting from the Board of Commissioners. The first is failure to cure a license. We have several, as you saw in a previous slide, approximately 400 licenses that are out for a cure. Some of them have been sitting for quite some time, in upwards of a year, 18 months. We are requesting delegated authority to, once a process is followed with 30-day notice, follow-up, 60-day notice, follow-up with the licensee or the prospective licensee. We are requesting delegated authority to deny those licenses or those applications for a failure to cure the license. The second delegated authority requested by staff is to approve and deny conditional license applications. This will give us the authority in the Office of Licensing and within my Office of the Executive Director to review the conditional licenses that are submitted and provide approval of those licenses or reject those licenses within a timely fashion under the rules. So we are recommending that these delegations of authority be provided to staff. And with that, we recommend approval by the board.
Thank you, Director Riggs. If there are there any questions from the board regarding the information provided by Director Riggs? If there are hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the resolution concerning the delegation of authority to deny for failures to cure a license application and to approve or deny conditional license applications.
Moved by Commissioner Del Cid Coso. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Delgado. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Waynu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of applications for ownership changes.
Director Riggs, the floor is yours to provide a summary of the applications for an ownership change.
Sure. And before I get into the specifics on this, I just want to remind everybody that an ownership change is a material change to your license. It must be submitted to staff and approved by the board before it becomes effective. Ownership transfers without board consideration and approval are non-compliant under the regulations and under the law, and therefore invalid and could result in sanctions, suspension of the license, or any other action taken against the license. We have seen some New Jersey licenses that have been online that are up for sale. The license, you can't just put the license up for sale and think that you're going to sell it without getting board approval and board consideration. So I do want to remind folks that if you are trying to sell your license, that needs to be noted that board approval is required. This is a material change to the license. These individuals all need to be vetted and go through the process that everyone else goes through when they obtain a license. Up for consideration today, we have 3 ownership changes. We have Green Lightning, which is adding a new owner. We have Honey Grove South, which is a change in their ownership structure. And then we also have Mojo Botanica, which is also a change in their ownership structure. Each of these 3 entities have satisfied the regulatory requirements for the ownership change. They submitted all the required documentation. The owners and individuals that are required to be vetted by the Office of Compliance and Investigation have been vetted and approved and deemed qualified to enter into the adult use market. Therefore, we are recommending that the board approve these 3 ownership transfers. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that we approve the ownership transfer of applications.
Moved by Vice Chair Delgado. Is there a second?
Yeah. Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Nash. Is there any discussion on this motion to approve the the transfer of ownership applications? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Waynu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of applications to modify capacity, physical plant premises, or administrative offices.
Thank you. Director Riggs, the floor is yours to provide a summary of these applications.
Thank you, Chairwoman. What we have is we have 2 cultivators that are trying to change their facility. They're modifying their facility. It's a material change that needs to be approved by the board, and they are modifying their canopy capacity. So what is required to be submitted is a site plan, standard operating procedures for the increased in canopy. All of these applicants have provided that requested information. Roots and Hamilton Farms have both been responsive and provided all the sales data and things like that over to the Office of Compliance and Investigation, and it's been reviewed by that office. Roots is increasing their canopy from tier 3 to tier 6, which is 150,000 square feet. Hamilton Farms is maintaining the same tier, but they are modifying their physical plant by adding an additional container to their farm so that they can grow additional cannabis on their premises. All of the information, as I stated, was provided to the Office of Compliance and Investigation and reviewed, and therefore staff is recommending approval of these facility modification applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that we approve application to modify the capacity of physical plant premises or administrative offices for Roots and Hamilton Farms.
Moved by Vice Chair Delgado. Excuse me. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Del Cid Coso. Thank you. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of applications for business conversions.
Director Riggs, can you please provide us a summary of the business applications? Sorry, the business conversion applications.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, Madam Chair. These are micro business to standard business conversion applications. It's one of the first time we're seeing these applications come in, and that's likely because you need to be operational for 1 year and in good standing with the CRC before you can submit this type of application. Once the application is submitted, our licensing team and our Office of Compliance and Investigations complete a completeness review to ensure that all documents are updated, standard operating procedures and the like, and that the necessary fees are paid to converting to a standard business and add more employees, add more square footage to your business plan. Daylight Cannabis LLC and the Cannabis Clubhouse LLC have submitted all the necessary documentation, have paid the necessary fees, and therefore staff is recommending that they be approved to convert from a micro business to a standard business. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that we approve the consideration of application to convert from micro business to standard cannabis business for Daylight Cannabis LLC and the Cannabis Clubhouse LLC.
Moved by Vice Chair Delgado. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Del Cid Coso. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration are the adult use cannabis business conditional license applications.
So, good grief. Director Riggs, I don't know why I just keep promoting you to, well, I keep designating you as a commissioner. My apologies. Director Riggs, if you could please provide a summary of the conditional license applications.
I certainly appreciate the promotions. I appreciate that, Chairwoman. So these conditional licenses applications have followed our licensing process articulated in the regulations and our notice of application acceptance. They've been given a priority assignment where we've confirmed that each application is assigned to the appropriate review level for their priority. We look at the diversely owned business status, taxes, residency if required, and then cures are sent if needed. That priority is then verified. We make sure that not only that they request a priority, that they submitted the appropriate documentation to support that priority. And again, cures are sent if that priority, if needed, to be in that priority status. Completeness review is conducted in our Office of Licensing, where they confirm all the required documents are submitted and the application is complete, and that basically confirming that all the documents are actually filled out and the required information has been submitted to our Office of Licensing. And then they are scored. For the conditionals, we have 18 conditional licenses, 8 cultivators, 1 delivery license, 2 manufacturers, and 7 retailers. All of these applications have been reviewed, scored, and are now recommended for approval by the board. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those watching us on the live stream, the list of applications is also available on our website on our meetings page. If you look at the agenda for today's board meeting, click on the hyperlink for this agenda item, and you will see the list of applications that are scrolling through on the slides right now. Are there any questions from the board for Director Riggs? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, you go ahead. Commissioner.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
You're welcome. I'll second it, but go ahead.
I move to adopt this resolution concerning the consideration of conditional license applications for Class 1, Class 2, Class 5, and Class 6 cannabis licenses.
Moved by Commissioner Del Cid Coso. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Delgado. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration are the adult use cannabis business conversion license applications.
Director Riggs, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These are the conversion from conditional licenses, so the same process that I just stated previously for the conditionals is followed: priority assignment, priority verification, a completeness review, and then they're scored. Then they go into the Office of Compliance and Investigation, and we follow the annual process, which is a qualification review, where individuals' financial sources and any other agreements are reviewed for regulatory compliance. Background checks are conducted and reviewed to ensure that the owners and persons of interest are qualified to operate in the adult use marketplace. And then there's a quality control portion that's conducted by licensing, the Office of Compliance and Investigation, and our legal team to ensure that all the requirements are met for licensure. Today, we have 14 conditional to annual conversion licenses, 4 cultivators, 2 delivery licenses, 2 manufacturers, 4 retailers, and 2 wholesalers. All these applications have been reviewed, scored, and are now recommended for approval. The list will be online, as the chairwoman articulated earlier. We'll leave the list up here for you guys all to look at, but this list will also be up online. Staff is recommending that the board approve all of these conditional to annual license conversion applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the applications to convert from conditional to annual.
Moved by Commissioner Nash. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Del Cid Coso. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration are the adult use cannabis business annual license applications.
Mr. Director Riggs, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All these applications have followed the same licensing process that I stated previously, except everything came together with priority assignment, priority verification, completeness review, then they're scored. They move over to our Office of Compliance and Investigation, where the background checks and things like that are conducted. They go through the quality control process, and then they come for recommendation to the board. There are 12 annual licenses before the board today, 5 manufacturers, 5 retailer, 1 testing lab, and 1 wholesaler. All of these applications have been reviewed, scored, and are now recommended for approval by the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that we approve consideration of annual license application for Class 2 cannabis manufacturer, Class 3 cannabis wholesaler, Class 5 cannabis retailer, and testing laboratories.
Moved by Vice Chair Delgado. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Del Cid Coso. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration is the expanded ATC certification.
Thank you. Director Riggs, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. Up for consideration today, we have one expanded alternative treatment center certification for breakwater treatment and wellness. A Class 5 retailer in Roselle Park, Class 1 cultivator in Cranberry, and a Class 2 manufacturer in Cranberry. They have provided the certification materials necessary to expand into the adult use market with zoning and municipal approvals. We've confirmed that labor requirements are met. As required by the law, they have certified that they have sufficient quantities of medical cannabis and medical cannabis products available to meet the reasonably anticipated needs of registered qualifying patients in accordance with the law. And therefore, staff is recommending that Breakwater be approved to expand into the adult use marketplace for the 3 licenses that they are requesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board for Director Riggs? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that we accept the certification for Alternative Treatment Center, Breakwater Treatment and Wellness to expand operations to the adult use cannabis market.
Moved by Vice Chair Delgado. Is there a second? Is there a second for Vice Chair Delgado's motion to accept the certification? All right, I will second the motion. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid-Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration are the adult use cannabis business annual license renewal applications.
Director Riggs, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 35 applications that are up for renewal before the board today. We have 3 that are in their first year of operations, and why that's significant is that because if they're an expanded alternative treatment center, they need to provide additional municipal support and proof of that additional municipal support after the first year. They, pretty much the same as the licensing process. The licenses are effective for 1 year from the date of issuance, and they're reviewed annually. All of these entities have provided the required documentation for renewal. This documentation has been reviewed by our Office of Compliance and Investigations, and therefore we are recommending that all 35 licenses be renewed. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have that list of businesses circling through our slides. Are there any questions from the board for Director Riggs regarding the annual license renewals? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the annual license renewal presented here today.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Del Cid-Coso. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid-Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda, we have cases, claims, and petitions.
Start with our determinations of rehabilitation. Director Riggs, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm going to kick this over to our esteemed Chief Counsel, Dave Twason, to go through the rehabilitation determinations.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today we have for consideration two alternative treatment center employees. They both received notice that their criminal history check revealed a disqualifying conviction. Both employees were given the opportunity to challenge that or request rehabilitation. They both submitted an application for rehab, and they both demonstrated affirmatively demonstrated rehabilitation. Therefore, we recommend approval of both applications. And with that, I turn it back to you, Madam Chair, for a board vote.
Thank you, Chief Quazon. Are there any questions from the board for Chief Quazon? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that we approve the request for determination of rehabilitation for adult use cannabis business personnel.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Delgado and seconded by Commissioner Nash. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Del Cid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Waynu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda, we have consideration of enforcement actions.
I'll turn the floor over to Director Riggs to provide a summary of the notices of violation that were issued.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Prolific Growhouse was issued a notice of violation based upon an anonymous complaint that was received by our Office of Compliance and Investigations for a packaging and labeling violation under the regulations. They were packaging flour under the Fruity Pebbles label in a package that resembled or looked like this popular cereal for children. Therefore, a notice of violation was issued. They did submit a corrective action plan, which the board has considered. But at this point, we are recommending that an enforcement action be taken for the violation. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board for Director Riggs? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to impose a sanction against Prolific Growhouse for $3,500.
Commissioner Nash has moved to impose a sanction of $3,500. Is there a second on this motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Del Cid Coso. Is there any discussion on this motion? I would like to note that the violation here that occurred was very unfortunate for the business to have taken this step to put together packaging that so clearly mimics the cereal that Director Riggs mentioned. They're in the business's response to the notice of violation that they were issued. There was absolutely no acknowledgement from the business of the violation and the seriousness of the company's actions. Instead, the company tried to distort the commission's explicit and unambiguous regulations. The arguments that the business offered are utterly absurd and unacceptable. And so I'm in support of this motion. I am thankful for the Office of Compliance and Investigations diligence to make sure that the packaging that was distributed to stores and customers, or sorry, to the stores, was recalled back to the business to correct. And I do genuinely hope that we don't see this kind of behavior from our regulated businesses. Remember, a core component to legalization and the regulation of cannabis items was to make sure that cannabis items were not going to be sold or advertised or packaged in a way that makes them attractive to children. Mimicking a very common, well-known cereal that is very attractive to children does a disservice to the work that our businesses are doing to abide by the rules and to make sure that our industry is being run with is filled with safe and responsible operators. So I want to urge rather all of our regulated businesses to please make sure that your packaging is not in any way attractive to children and cannot be construed to be attractive to children. If you have questions about whether your packaging is acceptable, please reach out to your field monitor, your compliance officer. They will help you make sure that you avoid any missteps on this front. This is not the first time that we've called out packaging by a business that uses inappropriate imagery or packaging in a way that is reasonably enticing or attractive to children. So please make sure that you are abiding by the rules to make sure that you can be considered a responsible operator here. So I'm in support of this motion, and I'm thankful that our staff were able to rectify the situation and make sure that no additional packaging that followed this error moved forward in getting into stores. Is there any further discussion on this motion?
Madam Chair, just briefly, I echo your sentiments for sure, and we know that accidents can happen and they happen very quickly. I have a almost 2-year-old, and I know how toddlers can be, and not just my 2-year-old, but just kids in general, how attractive these type of things could be for them. So definitely, the issue here poses a risk to safety, and that's the reason why I support imposing a fine of $3,500 to this business. I want to make sure that not only this doesn't happen again, but also folks are aware that there are rules in place as to what we're looking for.
Thank you, Commissioner Dusted. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Delcid Coso,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chairwoman Waynu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda, we have the open public comment period.
So as we open the floor to public comments, as with every meeting, members of the public can submit their comments to the commission during or after this meeting in writing via our website, nj.gov/cannabis/meetings. The deadline for submitting written comments for today's meeting is 5 o'clock tomorrow, Wednesday, February 19th. Written comments will be shared with the commission members and will be made public. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. We may have a technical issue with our clock on screen, but our staff will be keeping time. So please be mindful and make sure that if you do run out of time, just please wrap up your comments, provide your last quick thoughts. And if there's anything else that you were not able to get to, you are free to submit written comments where there is no length maximum. That said, Mr. Saeed will call out the names of our speakers. When it is your turn to speak, he will ask you to turn on your microphone. If you are joining by phone, I believe, and staff can correct me if this is wrong, I believe the way to turn off to unmute yourself is by star six. Star six, perfect, great, thank you. Now, also I want to note, for those who know that they have registered to speak, if your name on Zoom does not match the name that you registered under, we are not going to be able to guess that you are the one who had registered to speak. So please, if you're unsure what your name on Zoom looks like, I encourage you to log out, hop back in. You should be prompted to confirm your name. We have several folks who are right now listed under a first name with no last name. We've got some iPhones listed, so we won't be able to guess who you are. And please just make sure that your name matches what you use to sign up to speak. With that, Mr. Saeed, can you please call on our first speakers?
Thank you, Chairwoman. As a reminder, public speakers during this afternoon's public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes. Please be respectful and concise during your comments. And as the clock is not operational right now, I will give a reminder at 60 seconds just to let you know how much is left. And if you're calling in on Zoom, it is *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. So I will start now with the people that registered to speak within the Zoom call, not through phone, but through the Zoom call, the Zoom meeting, that are in attendance. The first person on the list, we have Donnie Edelman. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Donnie Edelman. I don't see that person. The next person registered to speak is Reginald Green. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. I don't see that person. The next person on the list is Mahim Gupta. Okay, I do see you, Mahim.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Mahim, you have the floor.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Ladies and gentlemen of the CRC, thank you for taking the time to hear my comments. My name is Mahim Gupta. I'm with the Weekly Reviewer, a news and media organization. I'm also New Jersey born and raised. So I just had a question, where do you guys plan on actually using the C fees that you guys were talking about back in the day? Do you have a process to make that public and transparent, to see how you're going to be spending the money? I want to know on your website, somewhere available to everyone, how you're going to use those pools of capital. The way I see it, you guys are burning cash every day, just sitting on millions of dollars in cash. So I'm here to offer you a solution. And all I ask is that you start studying it. Bitcoin fixes this. Okay. From your first meetings, you mentioned a sum of like $4 million in your C fee. If you don't want to lose like $400,000 a year in just inflation tax, you'd probably do best to study Bitcoin. So while you wait to decide how you allocate C funding, your purchasing power is being diminished and eroded away. So yeah, you need to decide on how to allocate the C funding quickly. I'd also like to see this process democratized or made public and transparent. My first recommendation is that you study Bitcoin, purchase 40 Bitcoin, hold it on your treasury balance sheet. Currently, states are rushing to do this. I want New Jersey to be there, and the institutions are doing this. You not doing this kind of is like missing out on opportunity. You're sitting on cash and it's burning away. I posit that New Jersey's cannabis industry can lead New Jersey in the Bitcoin race and secure a position and probably save their people for generations to come. One of the ways that you can give back to the community, in fact, is by endowing the community with the Bitcoin that you're holding. It doesn't necessarily make sense to split up cash and to potentially get certain things done when you might
60
not be able
seconds.
to calculate that. Thank you.
Mhm.
But instead, you could actually just endow an entire community with just straight Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an asset that saves your purchasing power against debasement and inflation. And to endow a community with this for, say, 10 or 20 years can make them prosper infinitely. So, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to help New Jersey residents and our cannabis industry. I urge you to go back and study Bitcoin and further to begin searching for a Bitcoin advisor to help you acquire and hold Bitcoin properly. The way I see it, CRC set out with two mandates: social justice and a thriving cannabis industry that's ahead of other states. If you truly want to fulfill that mandate, study Bitcoin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Just very quickly, the commission to make sure we're clear on the record, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission does not appropriate monies generated by the social equity excise fee. That is for the legislature and the governor to do through the annual appropriations process. Anyone can go to our website, nj.gov/cannabis. On the resources, under that navigation bar, there's a resources tab. Click reports, and there is our report for every year that we've done. We've issued a report thus far with the recommendations on using the social equity excise fee. Those reports are available on our website for everyone to see. And lastly, I'll also note that for any media inquiries, if you go to our website, click on the Contact Us page, there is an option for you to inquire for any media responses through the media link there. Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, if you allow me to amplify what you just said for a second.
Vice Chair Delgado.
You have the floor. Yeah, there's and this is to the public. There's a misconception out there that the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission actually takes these funds in and we dispense these funds. We have the power to dispense these funds. We do not have the power to dispense these funds, these social equity excise fee funds. If you read the CREAM Act, if you read the report that we publish every year, we only recommend to both the state legislature and to the governor how these funds should be used. Again, we do not have the power to dispense these funds. We could only recommend. So I just want to amplify that again, because there's a great misconception out there in the public that we actually dispense these funds. And I don't know how many times we have to say it. I don't know how many times we write it. I don't know how many times it's in the website. It says it in the website. It says it in our reports that we can only recommend. We do not dispense these funds. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Vice Chair Delgado.
Did I say it enough?
You did. You
Okay.
did right on message.
Again, we can
Right
only
on point.
recommend. It's the state legislature and their wisdom that wrote it into the law that they dispense these funds. And end of that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Saeed, if you can call in our next speakers.
Sure. The next person on the list is TJ Coots. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. I don't see that person. The next person on the list is James Schoen. James Schoen. The next person on the list is David Sanders. I would just like to remind everyone, you have to change your name on Zoom to the name that you registered with so that I'm able to find you. Otherwise, I'm not able to differentiate who actually registered for the list. David Sanders. I don't see that person. The next person on the list is Marcel Rodriguez. Marcel Rodriguez. I don't see that person. The next person is Jeffrey Miller. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. The next person on the list is Dave Velez. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. I don't see that person. The next person is Thomas Norcia. All right, Thomas, I see you. Just give me 1 second. Thomas, you have the floor.
Yes, you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Thomas Norcia from Growworks, and I'm part of the New Jersey Hemp Growers Association. Couple things for you today. How is the NJ-CRC ensuring hemp-derived cannabinoids such as CBD, CBG, CBN, isolates, and other forms of full-spectrum oils are legally and compliant material being purchased by manufacturers to use in their products? Based on the CRC's response to the New Jersey Hemp Growers Association, hemp is regulated by the NJ-USDA. How are your operators allowed to handle this material without a license from the USDA? Hemp material and inputs are allowed to be transferred over state lines, but you need to have a license from the Department of Agriculture. Your operators are not licensed through the New Jersey USDA, and some of them are bringing in hemp material from out of state for their products. The New Jersey hemp program is more regulated than your recreational market. Our products and inputs should be allowed in the recreational market. As we speak, the New Jersey Hemp Growers Association is waiting on an email response from you guys. We need to have a follow-up meeting to discuss these issues. Our growing season starts within the next few weeks. We need to have some answers to these questions. We just got screwed out of our last growing season. We shouldn't have to get screwed out of another one. That's it for today. We'll be waiting on your email response.
Thank you, Thomas. The next person on the list is Chris Goldstein. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Okay, I see you, Chris.
Hey, good afternoon. First of all, I want to say thanks to the commissioners for the focus on so much going on with the medical marijuana program. At the beginning of the meeting, you noticed that we're down another almost 1,000 patients, and the medical cannabis program has suffered a loss of almost 50% of patients gone at this point. So we really do need to improve the program, and now is just the time to do it. There are probably close to 2 million people in the state of New Jersey who would qualify under the current provisions of the medical cannabis law. So 66,000 is a very low number. Just next door in the state of Pennsylvania, there are almost 500,000 registered patients. And I'm also going to point out something, you brought up the program data when it comes to the price. The price for medical cannabis in Pennsylvania is about 50% less than New Jersey right now. And what is really a problem is that it's from a lot of the same operators. So when it comes to Curaleaf, Ascend, Ayer, TerraSend, Columbia Care, and GTI, they're all charging $15 an eighth in Pennsylvania and $45 an eighth in New Jersey. When I looked at New York, Massachusetts, Maryland, Illinois, it looks like these same companies are charging a lot less in every state except New Jersey. So I understand that you're going to look at why it's important that you're looking, at the price issue. But I hope that you'll look at these companies and what they're charging in other states, because medical cannabis shouldn't cost less in the center of Manhattan or in the center of Boston than it does in Edgewater Park, New Jersey. It should be less to our patients here in New Jersey after more than a decade of running this program than it is today. So thank you for that focus. The other thing I'm really thrilled to hear is the reference lab. as a consumer safety advocate, I'm glad to hear that we're launching a reference lab here in New Jersey to double check the safety standards out there. I think that's really required. So I think this really marks a lot of forward progress. Please carefully look at the price. I know that on your side, you look at the sales
60
price.
seconds.
Thanks so much. Make sure to look at the menu prices. And that's what I look at and I try and be aware of, because if consumers and patients don't see a fair price on the menu, they'll never walk in and purchase a legal product. So I understand that you're looking at the back end prices. Please make sure to take a look at the menus at the same time too. Thanks so much for your time and thanks so much for the progress.
Thank you, Chris. The next person on the list is Jonathan Frank. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Jonathan Frank. I don't see that person. The next person is Andrea Rabel. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Right, I see you, Andrea. Andrea?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you speak up a little bit?
Is that better?
Somewhat. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Andrea Rabel. I know we've talked about it a little bit throughout this meeting that we lost about 1,000 patients since the last meeting. Director Riggs said patients are always at the top of our minds when we were reviewing the enrollment numbers, and Chairwoman Wainu opened this meeting discussing the 5-year goals, none of which mentioned the medical program. The medical program is a primary concern in the CRC Code of Ethics, but it barely made the last line on your priority list, with the goal to lower prices by 10%. As Chris just said, prices in this state are dramatically higher than our neighboring states, double the cost on some identical products by the same MSOs. The issues patients are facing are far beyond pricing. We're struggling without hospital access, full spectrum CBD, transparency in the market, or safety on the shelves. I'm excited to hear about the town halls, and I really hope you opt to open them to the public and can gain some perspective. In the past, you only allowed a handful of selected people to speak, despite being thousands asking for the opportunity. Patients and caretakers are painfully aware of what needs are not being met. I'm also hopeful about the ad hoc Med Access Committee. Knowing the majority of remaining meetings this year will have a limited agenda focusing solely on licensing, it's a relief that there's some form of energy being committed towards the dwindling program. Hopefully, this committee will have some success in communicating to the public and with advocating to the other committees for the interests of the patients and program. When it comes to medical access, there's one thing your patients need above all else: transparency. We need COAs posted online. It's absurd to drive around to every dispensary and ask for printouts. Patients need to know which products have been remediated, and we need solvents labeled on packaging. These details directly impact my safety as a patient. While I applaud the new dispensary map, that information was already accessible through other means. We need to know what we are actually consuming from those dispensaries. It's been months since the intoxicating hemp bill, with no
60
explanation
seconds.
or timeline for the patients or growers impacted. Minors can purchase distillate, but not full spectrum CBD. There are products on shelves with added cannabinoids and hemp-derived products, but no transparency about where those products are coming from. And as a patient, all I know is it's not coming from our New Jersey hemp growers because they're denied a pathway to dispensary shelves. Even with the products on shelves, we're unable to trust the testing. We have years of data showing potentially dangerous trends, and I have purchased legal products from your dispensary shelves in 2025 and had them retested. There was more than potency inflation. There was multiple times the legal limit of contamination. Patients are depending on you for access to safe medicine. I applaud establishing a reference lab and finally lowering batch size and updating regulations, and I plead that you enforce them to your full capacity at the close of the grace period. Dirty products should not be making it to shelves. Lab shopping and corruption are nationwide, and I understand that you're stretched incredibly thin as a commission and staff. However, you only oversee 8 lab licenses. These licenses should be your top priority for ensuring public safety and meeting the needs of your patients. Anytime there is a recall with consequences for a cultivator or manufacturer, there should be corresponding lab enforcement. If you want to continue to scale this billion-dollar industry, you have a responsibility to scale safety regulations and enforcement. I will continue to develop a secret shopper program and compile more data to encourage your efforts. I'm eager to see what you're able to accomplish this year with new lab regulations, new pathways for input from the public, and a reinvigorated interest in saving the medical program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrea. The next person on the list is Brendan Kapp. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Brendan Kapp. I don't see that person. The next person is Edward Tobias. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. All right, I see you, Edward.
Okay, are we here?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, very good. My name's Ed Tobias. I'm a cannabis attorney, and I actually represent N.J. Weedman, Ed Fortune, and N.J. Weedman's Dispensary LLC, Fortune Farms LLC. They have applications in for cultivation, manufacturing, and retail licensing. And actually, I have Ed Fortune on the phone with me, who would also like to speak regarding his application and the provisions of NJ-A.C. 1730-6.8, which is now the focus of a proposed bill by Nick Scutari. There's a lot of provisions in this bill, but I just think we should speak about the one that talks about family members being able to participate in the cannabis industry. So right now I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Mr. Fortune, who's also signed up to speak as well today. Ed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Hello, CRC board. Can you hear me?
How about now?
I'm here.
Mr. Tobias, we're having some trouble hearing the call from your end.
Oh, okay. What I'm going to do is have Mr. Fortune call in. He's on the Zoom as well.
Yes, if he's able to, he is registered to speak, and so if he is able to use the Zoom platform, that will probably give us much better audio quality to hear his comments.
Okay, there. Very well then. Again, I yield to the CRC. Thanks. Take care now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. So that's it for the people registered to speak in the meeting. The next is the phone callers that registered to speak. So the next person on the list is Edward Grimes. Last four is 0682 of your telephone number. Edward, okay, I see you, Edward. Edward, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Edward Lefty Grimes. I'm with sativacross.org. We're a 501c3 here in New Jersey, fighting for disabled rights and cannabis patients' rights. My father was in the Vietnam War, and he was in a prison in Vietnam. And when he came home, he had PTSD, and they were spitting on him. And at a certain point, he shot himself in the head, and he lived, and he was in a wheelchair for many years after that. So the reason why I'm such a tenacious jerk about wheelchair access for disabled vets, that's one of the reasons why. We live in a culture of ableism. When you have police stations without wheelchair access, post offices without wheelchair access, dispensaries without wheelchair access, urban enterprise zones, which offer a discount to people unless you're in a wheelchair. Back in the day, they would have signs on the building that would say no Jews allowed, no blacks allowed, no gays allowed. Well, wheelchair users don't need the sign. That step is a sign in itself. That step says, keep your cancer home. Stay out of here, little cripple. We don't want you here, crippled person. That's what that step says. It's a sign that has many words. Well, the CRC has the opportunity to fix this with the stroke of the pen, at least as far as dispensaries having wheelchair access. Every dispensary should have wheelchair access. If you think that dispensaries should not be accessible to disabled vets, please raise your hand. I agree. I agree with you. No hands went up, and I agree. Every dispensary should be accessible to every disabled vet. And you could do that with the stroke of a pen. I suggest that you do a resolution and somebody second it and get it subsidized. Get the
60
legislature to subsidize it. This is a very important issue. It affects a lot of people, and it's a patient issue that we are worried about. That's pretty much all I have. I just want to thank you for taking the time to hear us. And our disabled vets deserve better than what we're doing in New Jersey. It's a culture of ableism that we have to stamp it out. And you guys have the power to do that with a resolution. And I hope you do that. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. The next person on the list is Edward Fortune. I see your hand raised. To unmute yourself on Zoom, it is *6. Just a heads up. Okay. Edward, can you hear me? If I see I'm asking you to unmute. It's *6 if you're calling in. Edward Fortune. It's *6 to unmute if you're calling into the Zoom meeting, or if you're on the Zoom platform, just hit unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, sorry about that. I had trouble
Nope.
unmuting.
No
Okay.
worries.
Yes, my name is Edward Fortune. I've been in the marijuana / cannabis industry for most of my adult life, for the last, say, 30 something years. Even here in New Jersey, prior to being legal. When it became legal, it wasn't like I was just going to suddenly stop. But anyway, both me and my daughter both attempted to be 100% legal. As it turned out, I believe I was pretty much stalled out in the city of Trenton as far as my application for N.J. Weedman's dispensary. My daughter applied for Fortune Farms, and then we ran into a problem where now I feel like the CRC is holding me hostage in the legality. Basically with 17:30-6-0.8 paragraph G, which specifically, I guess, bans, I think the intent was nepotism, but it bans siblings or kids and from both having licenses at the same time. Now, my daughter, in my case, she actually filed a few weeks ahead of me for her license and got the probation license. And then I filed, and I also got the license. And then later we found out that there was a rule after we both spent over close to $1 million. Combined, we spent over $1 million between getting our buildings, getting set up, getting ready. And then we find out that there's this rule to prevent either one of us from getting our license. We have our conditional license and getting our annual license.
60 seconds, Edward.
Yes. And apparently Senator Scutari recently has, put a bill in that will correct that. I strongly urge the CRC to support that. And I have to say that there's other people I've come across who kind of have that same problem. And I remember the CRC board and plenty of politicians said that they wanted to get the black market involved. They wanted to get it legal. This is an insurmountable hurdle for some of us, especially those who are family businesses. If I owned a septic system company and my daughter owned a septic system company, there's no way anywhere else in the state would say that we both can't sling crap. But for some reason, the CRC with this rule says we both can't sling cannabis. I want to use a different word there. I'm pretty sure you caught that. But I find that amazing that I can have a father and son trucking company, which I had before. There was, all kinds of father and daughter businesses out there. But this rule prevents us from being in the cannabis
Edward, if you
business.
can just wrap up your thoughts.
All right, that's it. I'm just hoping that somebody up there opens their eyes and see how you're holding some of us hostage in illegality.
Thank you so much, Edward. The next person on the list is Sam Neshwayat. Last four of the telephone number is 4354. Sam Neshwayat. I don't see that person on the list. The next person on the list is Karen Kanageiser. Okay, I see you, Karen. Karen, you have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I want to say a big thank you to everyone on the commission. This call is going to be very short. I just wanted to thank you for keeping it very safe and for making sure you check everyone out before handing out a license. What I did want to also thank you for was granting my son from conditional to an annual license today. So I just wanted to jump on and say, we appreciate you at Herb House and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Karen. The next person on the list is Alan Truskowski. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Okay, I see you, Alan. Go ahead, Alan.
Good afternoon. I'm Alan Truskowski with the Bridgeton Business Incubator. I'm here to talk about the external transfer functionality in Metric. Metric describes the external transfer functionality as a tool that enables the tracking and transfer of cannabinoid ingredients from external facilities into the regulated market, ensuring full compliance with safety standards. You can read more about the specifics of the external transfer functionality in Metric Bulletin MI_IB_48. Essentially, the external transfer functionality, which is already available in Metric, could provide hemp farmers a path onto dispensary shelves by way of Class 2 manufacturers. This would allow hemp farmers access to the regulated market while ensuring that licensed manufacturers keep products compliant, tested, and safe using the existing testing and compliance infrastructure. Oregon is already using this model with great success, and I propose that we follow suit. Let's implement the external transfer functionality in New Jersey. New Jersey patients are seeking safe, regulated, non-intoxicating, low THC, and full-spectrum cannabinoid products. But dispensaries have to turn them away, and New Jersey patients are left to go without or buy unregulated and untested products from out-of-state sources that don't support our businesses or residents. At the same time, our hemp farmers are struggling. They've got products, but they don't have a viable route into the regulated market. Class 2 manufacturers have the infrastructure to create tested and compliant products, but lack access to many of the necessary ingredients to satisfy patients. This disconnect is harming patients, the industry, and our local economy, but there's a simple solution. By adopting the external transfer functionality, we can solve several problems at once. Hemp farmers will have an outlet for their products, Manufacturers will offer a wider range of products that are tested, safe, and locally sourced. Dispensaries will cater to a broader customer base. Patients and consumers will gain access to the safe and
60
regulated
seconds.
products they need. And the state and municipalities will generate incremental tax revenue that can be reinvested into our communities. We have an opportunity here to create a robust, compliant, and thriving hemp market in our own state under the existing CRC regulatory infrastructure. I urge you to support the implementation of Metric's external transfer functionality, and let's build a brighter, more sustainable future for our industry and our patients in New Jersey. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alan. That's it for the list. I'm just going to go over the list again for those who didn't get a chance to speak, to see if they're still in the room. Donnie Adelman, if you're in the room, please raise your hand. Reginald Green, if you're in the room, please raise your hand. Thomas Coots, I do see Thomas, so I will allow you to speak. Thomas,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can.
Okay. Hello, my name is Thomas Coots. I'm here on behalf of Grow to High. We're a cannabis media company with aspirations of joining the cultivation industry. I'm here to discuss some problems I've noticed and some fixes to those problems. One of those problems I'd like to discuss is the CEF fee. This fee is pushing a lot of people back to street vendors in the cannabis market. The other issue I have with this fee is that it's placed on the cultivators, which have like the lowest profit margin of about 10 to 20%. When retail decides the price that the customer actually pays. As you increase the fee, it'll become increasingly difficult for any business to start in the industry, potentially creating monopolies for the members that got in early. This obviously eliminates the original goal with legalization of getting it off the streets and regulating it. We've conducted a survey of cannabis users, and over half of them refused to go to dispensaries because it just wasn't worth what they were paying. The next thing I'd like to bring up would be home grow, at least for medical patients. It is infeasible to put all that responsibility on medical cannabis companies, as at the end of the day, they have to operate as a business. People who have niche needs will fall through the cracks and won't be able to receive the strains and terpenes they need. I propose that we initiate a program that allows at least 500 medical patients to home grow with a specific number of plants and have these individuals inspected and audited every 3 months. You've lost about a third of your medical users over the past 2 years, and I think it's more important than ever to show that you still care about the medical side of the industry. The next initiative I would hope to start would be to set up a training program for doctors that are recommending people to the medical industry to suit individualistic needs. From what I've seen, most medical information is just a small pamphlet that teaches you how to use cannabis, opposed to actually teaching like what terpenes are and how they interact with the body. I'd also recommend creating a training program for medical professionals involved with
60 seconds.
Thank you. With medical cannabis users in order to train doctors to better direct patients towards specific strains, terpenes. If I could add at least one last thing, can we keep a section on site that summarizes all the language in layman's term? This language often keeps people gated when it's not really their job to learn this kind of language. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thomas. The next person on the list is James Schoen. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Next person is David Sanders. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. The next person on the list, Marcel Rodriguez. The next person is Jeffrey Miller. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. The next person on the list is Dave Valles. The next person is Jonathan Frank. The next person is Brendan Kapp. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. And the last person on the list is Sam Neshawayat. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Chairwoman Wayno, this will conclude the registered speakers we have for today's public meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Said, and thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts, their suggestions, their ideas, and their experiences with us today. As a final reminder, anyone who would like to submit written comments to the commission has until 5 o'clock tomorrow, Wednesday, February 9th, to do so on our website. This concludes the business that we have before us today, and with that, I move that we adjourn today's meeting. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Delgado. Is there a second? I'm sorry, is there any discussion on this motion to adjourn? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of adjourning say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. Time is now 2:51 and we are adjourned. Have a great rest of the day, everyone, and we will see you at the next meeting. Take care.